Unbelievable.
If you watch Tennis Channel, you know why he's so emotional. He just lost his dad, his best friend, a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how he's doing this, but he's won another match at Roland Garros. He is still so much heartsick and grieving. But this was the moment that I'm going to remember for a long time. How is your heart? How are you doing these days?
You know, it's every day is a new day. You know, there's always moments where you're overcome with emotion, and then, you know, there's some moments where you can kind of put it behind you and kind of focus on what the task at hand is. But, you know, it's something that I don't know if I'll ever get over. And but it's something that, you know, tennis is an escape, but it's also the place where we spend a lot of time together. So it comes both ways.
Yes.
But it is what it is, and we're just trying to get through it all together. And thankfully, I've got great people around me that are always there for me, and that makes the biggest difference.
There was a nice celebration just recently for your dad. Isn't it nice to see how many people he affected? How many? Of course, you loved him, and your sister and your mom. A whole hell of a lot of people liked your dad.
Yeah, you never know what to expect. You know, going into those things, I was really not looking forward to it, of course, but to see the amount of people that were there, to see the amount of people that, you know, had stories of how he impacted their lives, and in such a way beyond just what we knew or, you know, what we were able to grasp was truly remarkable, and just shows the reach that he had. Tennis was his sport. To, you know, that was his pathway to reaching as many people as possible, and he really did just that.
What would it mean to you to have a big U.S. Open?
It would be, you know, just special. You know, that's something that I've always wanted growing up as a kid, and something that we watched together, you know, a ton. And he took me to my first U.S. Open when I was a kid. So,
do you remember who you watched?
Yeah, I mean, I was there as a guest of with Rance Brown, who's, you know, the women's coach at UCLA, who's basically like a second father to me. So he took us there when I was young, and I've got pictures and whatnot. But we watched. I can remember I watched, you know, as many matches as possible. We watched Pete play a lot, you know. So it would be great to have a big U.S. Open, just to have it in the States, have it in front of a home crowd, lots of friends and family, you know, able to watch is the most important thing, because, you know, you want to share it with everybody. And
you have to know that people want to share with you, you know?
Yeah, that's the best, you know, when people, I mean, just the outreach of people that I'm, you know, have never spoken to, that I've gotten messages or letters or whatnot from, just kind of giving me their story and, you know, what I've gone through. And it's hard to read at times, but it's remarkable, because you do have a reach, you know, far beyond what you think is capable, and to have, you know, these people reach out to you is really special. And, you know, it's something that I'll, you know, look back on later in life and really think about how special it is. But now it's, you know, it's definitely tough to read and tough to get through.
All right, I want to ask you some questions about this whole season. The biggest tennis story of 2017 so far is?
It's got to be Roger and Rafa. I mean, they've claimed the first 3 slams. You know, Roger taking 6 months off, winning Australia. Rafa claiming the French. Roger claiming Wimbledon. It's like, you know, I mean, as a fan, I love it, because these guys, I mean, this is what I grew up watching, these guys dominating these events. But now as a competitor, you know, I'd like to be kind of pushing them in that direction, but still, when I was home, you know, it was great. I mean, it's cool to see, because, you know, Roger and Rafa could be arguably 2 of the best to ever played, and to do it on their best surfaces, you know, this summer, and see how all this all shakes up. It's going to be interesting to see.
All right, that leads me to this question. The ideal age for a tennis player these days is?
Late 20s. I mean, early 30s, you know.
Where are you?
I'm late 20s, 27, so that's what I'll keep it at, and I guess when I get older, I'll say it's supposed to be older, but you know, I think the game's just more mature. I mean, of course, you got guys like Zverev, Kyrgios, you know, these young guys who are phenomenal talents, who are, I think, the exception to the rule right now, just because they're such good tennis players, and and you know, good athletes. But I think it's hard. I mean, tennis is a tough sport. It's a year-long travel. It's tough on the body, on the mind, and I think it just takes a while to adjust. And you know, this is only my 6th year on tour, and I'm still trying to find ways to adjust. So each year I've gotten more and more comfortable at these events, at these tournaments. So hopefully I can just keep taking it a step further each year.
Barely able to move 10 minutes ago. Somehow, Stevie Johnson wins Houston. A fighter, a problem solver, a guy who maximizes his talent level.
There are plenty of movie, TV, film stars, great athletes who show up at the US Open to watch the tennis. If there's one person you would want watching your match at the US Open, big night match, US Open packed, 23,500 people.
Man,
Who
put
would,
me on the spot.
who would you want? Just imagine match point, you've won, and then you point to.
I don't know. I mean, Jordan was one of my favorite athletes growing up, just to watch him. I mean, play basketball and try his hand in baseball, but to be the champion that he was, I mean, he's definitely one of my favorite athletes growing up, so he would definitely have to be on the short list of people to come watch.
Okay. I thought you were going to go like Charlize Theron, you know, a little, none of that, huh?
No, I think it would go more with the sports star.
Okay, fair enough. All right, here's another question for you. For Nick Kyrgios to live up to his potential, he has got to do...
Just to be himself. I mean, Nick's a talented kid, great kid in the locker room. You know, I've had many awesome conversations. We pretty much sit and talk basketball all day. But he's a talented guy, and I think, which is great for the sport. He speaks his mind. Of course, you're gonna have people that don't like him. He's gonna rub people the wrong way, but
The locker room likes him.
But he's a good guy. You know, he's never had a problem with him. So, you know, hopefully he could just keep it together. I know there's, you know, a lot of maybe negative things that surround him, but you know, he's a good kid. He's a fantastic tennis player, great talent, and when he wants to win, I mean, he's proven the fact that he's one of the best in the world.
All right, I think I'm down to my last question. We've seen on-court coaching in women's tennis. Now at the US Open qualies, coaching is allowed.
Yep.
You for it? You against it?
You
where
know,
do you land on that?
I mean, I played college tennis for 4 years, so I don't mind the coaching. I think sometimes, you know, they shouldn't broadcast what the coaches, you know, are saying to the players, because sometimes it's personal. Sometimes, you know, you got to be a little bit more forward, a little direct. You only have 90 seconds or 60 seconds in a changeover. So I think sometimes that might be a little too much for my liking. But because what happens between a coach and a player should be private for the most part. But I think it's a good thing, you know. But you know, I think there's a lot of people that, you know, might find it to be a sign of weakness to have a coach out there. But I played with it for 4 years. I know what it's like to have somebody kind of helping you guide your way through, because I mean, trust me, there's times where you don't want to be out there by yourself, and it would be nice to have somebody help try and work you through it, or just give you some type of direction to maybe turn it around, because sometimes you just don't think as clearly as you should.
Most of the time, did your coaching in college involve calming you down or firing you up?
You know, it was a mix of both. You know, there was, of course, some days that it wasn't as fun to play maybe the smaller matches, but you know, you got to go out there and do it. And there's days where you go out and play UCLA, or you go out and you play, you know, for NCAA titles, where, you know, the energy's there, the emotion's there, and sometimes they got to, you know, kind of harness that in a bit and just go out there and focus on playing tennis. So, you know, I think that's the beauty of the coach-player relationship. They've got to figure out how to handle their player, and it goes both ways. And I think that's something that, you know, all players should hopefully find a great partnership.
You had a pretty good college career.
I did okay. I definitely did better than that Isner guy.
Oh, here we go.
I had to make sure I get that one in there.
We'll make sure to keep it in.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you, Steve.